Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. Looking at November 3rd, 2025, the moon is in the sign of Aries. And this can be a day that feels very high octane, a lot going on, a lot of spontaneity. People who have air and fire dominant in their horoscope are going to feel very jazzed, very in motion, and things are happening. This is emphasized by the fact that Mars is in a picture with Neptune. It's what we call a trine, a harmonious aspect. Mars is presently in the sign of Scorpio. Very dynamic placement for Mars. It wants to move strategically for what it is going for, high desire and passion, focus. So with the moon in the sign of Aries, Aries relates to Mars. This is a very direct day for obtaining or making things happen. The piece here to keep in mind is that that picture between Mars and Neptune is an emphasis on what we feel a perhaps spiritual connection to, very high creative drive, things that have to do perhaps with service. The part that is valuable to know is that as this moon moves through the sky, there can be a blind spot for considering the effect of the decisive impact. And so how that translates is, let's say someone is taking action in a way that is so much about what they feel they need to make happen. It's emotional, it's reactive, but they aren't necessarily considering how those reactions or habits or that spontaneous response is affecting perhaps other aspects of their life, other people in their life, or people who they encounter as they move quickly in this very decisive way. So it's beneficial to consider the impact of movement, how you're going, what direction you're going, and potential repercussions. For instance, somebody could decide they want to make something happen, but they're not necessarily taking into account the financial cost or where those resources are coming from. We are in what's known as the storm before Mercury goes retrograde the end of the week, actually on Sunday. And so as Mercury appears to slow down in the sky from our perspective, basically what's happening is we're really being asked to consider how we communicate ideas, what we hear, and are all the channels open? Are we really getting all the information we need? And on a fast-moving day, energetically like Monday, we really benefit from double checking. Check that bank account before the purchase. Make sure you know how this is happening if your impulse is one way, but you also need to consider other factors as you realize the goals you are working on. The moon goes void, of course, at 6:21 a.m. on Tuesday, Election Day in the United States. So what that means is that the voting booths in a lot of areas of the country are going to open with a void of course moon. What the void of course moon means is that people are not as emotionally attached to whatever it is they're doing. So some people aren't going to feel like they need to vote, and other people are going to make a decision to vote for perhaps someone or something that they haven't really researched or understood that much, just because, well, what the heck. Ideally, if you're going to vote, and again, I'm using voting as a metaphor here as well. I mean, some of my listeners may not be voting, may not live in the United States. If you do live in the United States and you have the opportunity to vote, you may ask yourself, especially once the moon enters Taurus at 11:16 a.m. Eastern Time, you may ask yourself, well, what do I most value? And the piece here that I bring this up about is that the moon in the sign of Taurus and how it's moving through the sky over the next couple of days is basically saying, what is it that your heart is invested in, that resonates with your spiritual alignment, that you want to create in this lifetime? And things in the world in general are rather upside down. Arguably, the United States may be one of the most skewed places in the world right now with how it had traditionally postured itself and where it's at today. And I do get asked this by my spectrum of clients and also family members, friends, people I care about. What is going to happen? You're the astrologer. Well, I don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen. I do know that the decisions we make now and how we address the volatility in the world is going to have effects for generations to come. And I am of the hope that there will be generations to come. So of extreme value on a day like Tuesday the 4th, especially into Wednesday the 5th, it is super valuable for us to take action in a way that aligns with our deepest hope and wish. And the deepest hope and wish is to go beyond what you might think is the reality and embrace what you desire as possibility. So each of us, in whatever small way, can take actions that are regenerative, positive, reflective, and loving. I can't emphasize that word enough. Because this moon, as it travels through the sign of Taurus, Taurus being a sign that relates to Venus, the goddess of love, It makes a picture in the end with Neptune, which is the highest octave of love. So what is the loving way to take action on a day like Tuesday? And some of us may hit certain power struggles or assertions that we don't have the ability or we don't have the power or we're not going to make an impact. And that could be an outside person who actually is making you feel that way. Or it could be within yourself thinking, what's the point? Well, the point is that for every act of love, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly inconsequential, we are putting another drop in the bucket of possibility. And isn't that a better reverberation than saying, I just can't. I can't believe in possibilities. I can't believe in loving creation. Everything is so upside down and crazy. I just want to retreat. The full moon in Taurus, which is exact at 8:19 a.m. on Wednesday the 5th, is about drawing in the energy of that Scorpio sun, which reflects on the moon, making it big, juicy, and beautiful. And so that Taurus moon that is about abundance, creativity, the goddess, the empress, fertility, is getting fed by the energy of Scorpio, which is about transform, die, to give birth. It's powerful. But if we don't let in the sense of, okay, I have to transform in order to become more, we never become more. One of the sharpest analogies of this is a mother giving birth. As she's giving birth, she is pushing out a life that will irrevocably change her life. And also, the life has begun. So there's a resistance there of, do I want my life to change? Even though it may be her heartfelt desire. She still, life as she knew it, will never be the same once that child enters the world. And so that's the fullness of this moon. It's saying, okay, I have to allow deep transformation in order to step into possibilities I can only imagine. And if we get through the angst of that and the possibly fear, power struggles, difficulties that could all be apparent on Tuesday, the 4th, then on Wednesday, the 5th, we're in this really delicious juice of let's cook, let's make things productive, let's get the long view and dialogue and see what can be birthed, what can be created. Powerful day, Wednesday the 5th. Moon starts to wane after she hits that point of fullness at 8:19 a.m. But it's a really powerful day for putting in place the entire spectrum of possibilities and calling in the different players from places you may not even have thought of. Amplify music. However you want to use this day for maximum creativity and productivity, do that. Thursday the 6th, the moon will go void, of course, but not until 9:51 a.m. So this is still a very energetic, high power morning to get things out, to cross the finish line, if you will, or bring into fruition something that you want to start making happen. The moon is void, of course, less than an hour, and enters Gemini at 10:20 a.m. Now, this is very different energy than the moon in Taurus, and especially we're coming off that full moon. We're in the waning moon cycle. So that means a cycle of finishing up, working on things already in motion, deciding what isn't fitting anymore, not necessarily starting anything new, especially with awareness of Mercury about to go retrograde. This is very important because the moon is in the sign of Gemini. So we're going to hear a lot of, oh, what about this idea? Or let's do this, or can we make this happen? And so there's a lot of stimulus to be moving, taking action. Call me back, calls me, call him back, contact this person. And you want to rein it in a bit. Remember, retrograde. Retrograde's all about the RE. So we want to keep in mind that energy that's about, let's really know this inside and out before we race ahead. Mercury was known as the psychopomp, and what that energy is about, psychopomp energy, is the ability to go from the heavens, so the upper realm, Earth, where we mortals hang out, into the underworld. And to have that fluidity was not granted to many gods. And so Mercury's ability to do that is a very strong symbol of what gives us the most robust communication, what allows a person to really have a depth of knowledge, wisdom. It's not just information. Information flies around on the earth plane. Gossip, memes, now AI, viral things. Yes, a lot of information we can look up, research, understand. But wisdom means also the broader perspective, the stepping into the eagle's view, the looking at things from a distance, weighing many different ways of seeing, and then the depth of knowledge and knowing comes from a deep dive into the psychological realm and awareness of our mortality, which astoundingly is something that seems to elude a lot of, especially people with power and wealth. They spend a lot of time trying to live forever. And that really is well, it's weird, but it's a denial of our limited time here. And when you have an awareness of that, the preciousness of the time and how you spend it is magnified. It's richer. So Thursday the 6th, once that moon is in the sign of Gemini and everything seems very speeded up with someone wanting this, someone wanting that, answer this, go here. Keep in mind that it's valuable to slow down a bit. Make sure you have all the information you need. Make sure you back things up. Make sure you read between the lines if that's a part of whatever's going on. Anything contractual, anything that has to do with editing, all these things greatly benefit from more than one eye, more than one look, more than one scan, and really digesting the information that's in front of you. And this rolls into Friday the 7th as well. Another thing about that day is that there's a picture in the sky between Venus and Pluto. So those of us who may have a certain dynamic aspect in our horoscope, maybe a tendency to get a bit obsessive or overly focused on something. If you feel yourself like falling into a certain snare or pattern, again, look at why this is driving you to that space so that you can reflect on it, maybe know it better, and isolate, okay, this was about a past thing. This is not necessarily about now. The other thing that can happen is we can become very fascinated by something that's presented to us around this time. And it's also very important to sit with that instead of taking immediate action on it. Because the moon in Gemini can kind of, hey, do this now, limited time only. But we want to really understand, wow, what's the pull here? Why am I feeling so much of a hook? So that we understand, do I really want to pursue this person? Or do I really want to invite in this conversation? Or do I really want to put money down for this? Is it a good idea? And so the more space we give ourselves to entertain ideas and not necessarily take action over these couple of days, the better. The moon goes void, of course, at 9:32 a.m. on Saturday the 8th. And then at 10:06 a.m., it enters the sign of Cancer. This is nice. And what I mean by that is after what might have felt like kind of a wired couple of days, and we've got Mercury retrograde that will happen at 2:02 p.m. on Sunday the 9th. What's nice about the moon in Cancer over these days is when the moon is in the sign of Cancer, we want to nest. Whatever that means for you. I mean, nesting for one person is not the same as for another, but it's a sense of, let me stop, let me pause, let me swim laps would be some people's idea of it. Others might want to just chill and go to a museum, listen to music. Still others stay at home, be with a book. Most of us would want to eat food that feels restorative to us, maybe comfort food for some people, or food that just gives us a sense of home. it's a time when we want to settle in to listening to what we need to feel emotionally fed. And this will be heightened for especially water signs, some earth signs. It's not that people who are fire and air signs don't have this experience. You may have a better sense of how this is acting if you know where the sign of Cancer falls in your horoscope. But overall, I would just suggest that use this weekend, especially once we get into later morning on Saturday, for doing things that give you a sense of, this is what I need to refresh and recharge. Because when you give yourself that, you will be well poised for whatever comes up as we get into the coming week as of Monday. And keep in mind that Mercury retrograde, back up your files, avoid any electronic purchases if you can, but life happens and we have to do things when we have to do them. And any transit travel, just give yourself more lead time. Don't schedule too many appointments at once, and allow yourself to go to the depths of deeper understanding with whatever communication needs to transpire over the next few weeks. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.